just want to get to some real meat and potatoes here. What are your thoughts on Joe Biden?
Look, no, for so many reasons. You know what I mean? It's like on even the sort of like most basic level, in the version of the presidency that's being pitched by Joe Biden, I think there's a danger. I think that like in the return to normalcy presidency, in the sort of like, the perfect execution of what they're pitching to America, I think there's a danger, because even that would just be going back, to exactly the politics that created like fertile ground for Trump to come up the first time, and Trump is a fascist and Trump is a racist, but Trump is also very, very stupid, and he's like kind of doing some of it like he's like bumbled into being a fascist, and he's just naturally a racist. I really worry that like an ineffective Joe Biden presidency, or even a return to that sort of like liberal order pre-Trump, is just going to create a fertile ground for like an actual motivated like fascist who really knows what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like your Tom Cotton is like what scares me about the successful version of the Joe Biden pitch. But then, there's also like the real I mean, listen, the Tara Reid stuff fucking like just is like staggering to me. Like the Alyssa Milano and everything, and the Time's Up of it all, and the the interconnection between all these kind of like PR agencies and everything like that is just like repugnant to me. It's like Joe Biden as a man, it's like I don't even like think it's worth like considering. You know what I mean? Like his actual voting record is abhorrent, and he's responsible for a lot of bad things that make America bad today. But it's almost like you can't even like you shouldn't even take that into consideration, because this candidacy is being run by lobbyists, and so you have to assume that like if he got back into the White House, it would just be sort of those same lobbyists running stuff. Like I actually kind of like Joe Biden is not like with it enough for me to even like say that I, have any conception or feelings about like what he would do or what his values are. Like, I don't think he has them anymore. Like, I think what we're seeing is like faceless lobbyists, like writing a script for Joe Biden, and like I just have no interest in being a part of that. You know what I mean? Like all the worst, the people that came out of the Obama administration and became lobbyists and like worked for like Harvey Weinstein and the Keystone Pipeline and shit are like in charge of the party now. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm not a fucking Democrat.
Yeah. But then what is the alternative? Like, do you live in a swing state?
I don't. I live in California. So it's a very easy choice for me. It's a very, very easy choice for me. I don't know. I would never vote shame anybody. And there are valid reasons for, in a swing state, deciding to vote for Biden. Like, there are tangible things. Like, the Supreme Court, I'm a little less swayed by, because I don't actually know how good the pick would be by whichever lobbyists are running the Joe Biden campaign. But things like DACA, I think you can actually make an argument for, like, tangibly life will be worse for, like, DACA recipients under a second Trump term than under Biden. And
or abortion rights as well.
Abortion rights as well. I mean, but that also comes down to the Supreme Court, which I'm also like, man, I just don't fucking know. Like how much the Biden campaign is about tacking to the center. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. I am not fully convinced by the Supreme Court argument. But I am convinced by DACA. So I don't know. It's like, on the one hand, like there are really tangible things, and I don't know what's best to do. On the other hand, though, it's like if the thing that the Democrats know they can always expect from us is our vote, they will never ever change anything. And so, but also like they'll never change anything even if we don't vote for them. It's such a catch-22 that it's like hard to even conceive of,
Yeah.
I think in the end it doesn't matter that much, because Trump is just going to decimate Biden, and so it doesn't matter like what I'm telling people in swing states to do. You know what I mean?
That was going to be my next question. Like, how do you feel about the November election? Because
I think it looks really, really bad. Like, I think that it's going to be really, really bad. I think we'll maybe see Hunter Biden investigations.
Oh, absolutely. Those have already started. I was could you have picked a candidate with more baggage? Like,
well, I mean, the issue is they've like picked somebody who like almost all of the like arguments you can make about Trump, except for the like I mean, every argument you can like undercut it with a what about with Biden. Like they pick the candidate for like every single thing. Like if they're like he's a racist, then you're like Biden did the crime bill. Like if it's like Trump's
he's
like
a misogynist. He's an alleged sexual assaulter.
He's a sexual assaulter, and also on the fucking video with all these young girls and everything like that. I'm like, I just think like, you know, there are polls right now that imply that Biden is beating Trump, but also Biden's enthusiasm is at like 24. And all the polls around this time last time showed that Hillary would beat Trump. And her enthusiasm was like in the mid 60s. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Voters. Like, and you know, with regard to Biden as well, they're talking a lot about like needing Sanders supporters and wanting to make an appeal to Sanders supporters. I just do not see it happening. I mean, the entire like point of the Biden campaign from the beginning the argument has been that they have to tack to the middle to pick up like disaffected, never Trump voters and people in the suburbs,
which works like so that. Well historically, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, by the way, also like
they're just floored with the centrist vote.
I mean, also like, you know, they did win in 2018, but winning like the House is a very, very different thing than winning a presidential election.
Oh, absolutely.
And all the people like,
and even then, it wasn't the blue wave that they were predicting, right?
No, it was not. They all point to that as like the prototype of how to win in the Trump era, and I'm like, I think he squeaked out a win there, and like it's also very, very different than presidential politics.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I think also like, you know, Biden's plan and the plan of the campaign has been to tack to the center and pick off these, you know, disaffected, never Trump people and everything like that. So we're not even going to see a moment of them try to appeal to Bernie people. There's really like no strategic reason for them to do anything more than just like superficially do it. Their campaign from the beginning like has been to run as left as they're willing and then tack to the center. So this is as left as Biden was ever going to get. Was during the primary. So it only gets further right from here. Yeah. And frankly, I also do think that Trump will once again, even after having 4 years of like, you know, of evidence to the contrary of him in the White House, I think he will successfully flank left on Biden on just like one or two issues, and also he'll mention the fucking Iraq War in the debates again if they even have debates.
Yeah, if Biden's able. See, that's the other thing. This like. I don't know who you think Biden's running mate is going to be. I've heard all kinds of different women, projected, but that's obviously going to be a more crucial part in this election than any other one in my lifetime. Where it's like, well, you are actually potentially picking the president in your vice president. If, I'm not saying that Biden's going to die, but I'm saying that it really seems like he's not cognitively up to the task, I think is as charitable as I can put this.
Sure.
And has made, not accusations or allegations, but he's made commentary behind the scenes that Politico's picked up on that apparently he's not even planning to run for a second term if he was elected as the president. Right. So it's kind of like, it's almost being sold to us as a, don't worry about him. We got option number 2, right?
I know,
box number
which
2.
is, you know, again, it's like, you just don't win an election that way. You know what I mean?
What a weird ticket. What a bizarre ticket. I don't get it.
You can't win an election with like the guy that like can't speak on camera.
Yeah.
And like whichever actual like election loser is his running mate. Because let's be frank here, like he's only got a selection of election losers to pick from. You know what I mean? Like I have always thought that because all the centrist Democrats are so obsessed with 2018 that they have been planning to go with Stacey Abrams from the very beginning.
I thought that too.
And there's so much Stacey Abrams energy and everything like that. So that might still happen, and I think that is like I don't like dislike Stacey Abrams, but I also don't think she's like that inspiring of a character, and I think she's like more of like a figure that's in like liberal news circles or something like that. Like I don't think people really know who this person is, to be honest with you.
Well, it's also going to stoke the id poll flames amongst all the disenfranchised voters now, right? It's going to be like, well, come on, all the things we've talked about. You always purport to be up for these kind of things, right? Like, aren't you prepared to stand behind that?
And I also think that maybe the Michigan governor person, just because like people have hummingbird brains, and she was most recently catching shit from Trump. Like I actually do think that they might just be like, oh well, she helped him in Michigan and Trump is targeting her and she is a woman, And then, there is the truly Joker-fied option that he actually does Hillary, because they have been talking about
I've been talking about it.
The campaign has said they're like, we need someone who is ready to lead on day one. They're already starting to say we need the most experienced VP nominee ever. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar.
I'm actually like, the strange accelerationist part of me is like, yeah, go full malarkey. Go Hillary,
there is that part of me too. Listen, like, they pulled their little trick and they got their way, and I'm just outside of it now. I'm like, whatever the fuck you people think is right.
It's your choice.
You know what I mean?
It's your candidate
you all
now.
Thought you're like Biden. You're like Bernie can't win. It's got to be Biden. I'm like, well, fucking best of luck with it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, prove us wrong. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, get him out of there. Fucking get us. I don't know what the fuck is Biden running on. Like, get us. I guess like a slight expansion on the ACA. Get us an expansion on a small expansion on the ACA.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also the I'm not Trump ticket is probably going to be
the I'm not Trump ticket. Yeah. The not running on not Trump. I mean, yeah. I also think that, like, when an election is a referendum on someone, that person like usually wins. And I think if it's Biden, like, this election is just going to be about talking about fucking Trump all the time. I actually thought if it was Bernie, it would have been a good thing for everyone to be obsessed over, communism and socialism.
Absolutely.
If it was nothing but trying to scare people for the entire year about like how free healthcare is breadlines or whatever, Bernie would have won. He would have won.
They are virtually the same. We know this.
Yeah.
What about the fact that there might not even be a traditional election come November? Because, the way things are going, it doesn't seem like, it's going to be sorted in any tangible way in the United States by that time. So mail-in voting, or what is happening?
The way it seems to be going right now is that there will be an election in November, and that people will be shaming you for not taking your life in your hands to vote for Joe Biden. Like, the way that things seem to be going right now is like, I swear that the GOP is like, fuck it. It's like more voter suppression. We insist on in-person voting, and like,
it's the best voter suppression. They've never had anything like this.
They've never had anything like this before. Yeah. And they also, like, as reasonable as it seems to do mail voting or whatever, like, the GOP, if they really want to stick to this voter suppression plan, which has like gotten them like, has been a plethora for them, a bounty, then they can't like accede to these mail vote things. So I actually think that the November election might happen. It will be the lowest turnout election of all time. Democrats will shame you for not being willing to get COVID to vote to like stop Trump. And then like Trump will just announce that he won, and like that'll just be that.
It's gonna be like, what was the turnout for Wisconsin? 3%, 4%. Are we gonna have something similar for the national election? Like,
yeah, that's what it feels like. I mean, there's nothing to vote for, and also you might die and get sick if you go.
It's the malarkey timeline. I can't get over it sometimes.
We are in the full malarkey timeline. Like, the Biden, like, since Super Tuesday, it has just been, the wheels are off. Like, the brakes are off. The wheels are off this ride. We're like in a global pandemic. They're like sending people out to not socially distance and vote for Biden. I'm like, things have gotten so dark. Like, we're careening so fast toward post-apocalypse. Like, we're like in like, illegitimate elections. Like, Dana White from UFC is starting like a fighting island. Like, it's like
wait,
crazy
actually
time. That's for real. Yeah.
What? Like, a fighting island?
Dana White, UFC, they're still trying to do UFC fights, and Dana White like got an island, and he's like, we're gonna do fights on this island. And then he's also doing fights at like a Native American reservation, because it's like outside the laws of the United States.
Why not just do it in the middle of the sea where there's no law at all? Like,
I mean, like, we will be there
international waters
at a certain point. We're gonna be like in real life PUBG before too long.
Oh,
like, people will sign up to do real life PUBG.
I was like, I think it was like, it hasn't been legal since maybe the 1900s, but back then, like, we used to fight animals. There used to be like kangaroo boxing matches and things like that. We're going full circle. We're going right back to that.
We'll be back in no time, but it will just be men fighting each other. We can't be mean to animals. That is neoliberalism. Like, no more animals fighting, just people like by their bootstraps fighting.
In terms of the pandemic, how are things looking in California right now? Are you based in? Well, you don't have to tell me. I know you don't want to probably dox yourself.
I'm based in LA.
Okay, so LA is in full lockdown still, right?
Yeah, we've been in lockdown for a while, for a couple weeks now, I think it's going to last a lot longer here. Like, it's definitely really, really weird. The curve is starting to flatten here, but my understanding is that we're doing a good job with the curve here. We're not going to overwhelm our hospital system, but because that's successful, we need to stay in social distancing even longer. The issue is still, it's the social distancing is working, but we don't know what the fuck to do next, because if you stop social distancing, then it would just be a disaster again. So, at least our hospitals are not being overrun, and we're not hearing the stories out of New York and everything like that. I don't like the mayor here, and I don't really like Governor Newsom or whatever, but I'm I don't know. They got it closed up pretty quick. I was happy that they got us closed up pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. But you're right. We don't know exactly what's going to take place directly after, at least until vaccine comes along, right?
I swear to God, I'm you feel like you might just be indoors till a vaccine comes out. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me sometimes. Is I'm just it feels like this is not going to end for a really long time.
Do you guys have systems in place in LA? I guess I don't know if California has this at all. For mutual aid, do you have are you depending solely on the federal government when it comes to what they're going to dole out and stuff like that?
We do have mutual. We have a really great mutual aid effort here in LA from Ground Game LA. That's a great group out here, and they've been running a actually pretty successful and pretty big mutual aid effort out here. It's the COVID-19 Mutual Aid Network. You can find them at Ground Game LA. But and I believe that our mayor started something called the Mayor's Fund or some fucking thing like that. But I would, if you were in a my understanding is that Ground Game is now basically they went from being they worked for a campaign, and they stayed together as activist group. And now I was speaking to some of them yesterday. They're their offices are just full on a distribution center. They are just taking in donations and distributing mutual aid. So it's really, really cool. And if you're in LA and you need anything, or if you need to donate anything, go to Ground Game LA on Twitter.
Fantastic. What about in terms of, do you see any significant changes? Because I know a lot of people, right now, Medicare for All, more popular in the United States than it's ever been, right? And these concepts that used to be far left radical stuff, right, is now kind of just, it's commonplace. We all want this. Do you see a significant movement or push towards that, even without a Bernie Sanders campaign? Are enough people finally starting to say, this is what the problem is? It's not immigrants, it's the system itself.
It is. I don't know. I just really don't know right now, because I do feel like people are seeing more than ever, and I do feel like this COVID thing is going to change us all and make people more sort of aware of what the inadequacies are of our system. So I think that sort of literacy will help. And I also think that in a healthy way, it's divesting us a little of our American exceptionalism. And so, I don't know. I really don't know. I do think that there is more of a hunger for Medicare for all than ever, but there's also, there are huge entities set against it happening. You know what I mean? And so it's I think that people are going to be more aware of what they don't have and what other countries do have, but it's still going to be a really, really difficult journey to get there. I hope we can.
It doesn't help that you have the literal Hunger Games starting up in America now too. So
yeah, it's I don't know. I don't want to be I don't want to be defeatist or anything like that, and I'm not trying to be defeatist in any way. In fact, I actually think that the movement to me feels stronger than ever. You know what I mean? The movement to me feels completely strong, and the things I witnessed this year, I did travel. I went and canvassed in Nevada, and I also went up to Michigan and canvassed. And, seeing people, having traveled from so far to do these canvassing events, there were people from other countries, and everyone I did, both states had people from out of state. That does make me feel like we really, really want this. And people, there's the energy out there to devote ourselves to it. We just I don't know, need to find a way to get it done. Maybe it's direct action.
You're gonna have to start rebranding everything you do now. It's gonna be way more radical. It won't be like yellow, sunny, friendly emotes, dogs and stuff.
Hey you, yes, you. Do you like cozy environments with other wholesome people? Well then come join the Discord. It's got a whole bunch of stuff to help you with creative endeavors, such as stock footage, royalty-free music, and an amazing community of people looking to help each other out and uplift your content. Join the Discord now by going to weareserfs.com. That's weareserfs.com.
We would like to thank Miranda Marone. You are our monarch, and we thank you for our indentured servitude. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Michaela Schmid, Tomospin, Ferrer Tahone. You are all the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Square Table, Paul Parafit, Daniel Kahn, Clement Chutskoff, Alan R., Josh Mickelson, and Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andrea Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bythe, Terry, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. And to our merchants, thank you for taking mercy upon us.